So this is the door that I built. This door is kind of a gateway into this village that I am, I guess, the mayor of. So you walk across, the door opens, you walk back through, and it closes itself behind you. So all these inhabitants can live safely, and I can get in and out easily. The physical door design is not my design. These pistons and everything around the outside somebody else came up with. But the problem with this design is that if you send a signal too quickly, the door actually breaks. Some of the pieces fall apart and you have to rebuild it. So I went under the contraption and I built a safety system to ensure that no signals can be sent too close together and cannot break the door. And the gist of it is, this is where the signal comes in from the outside of the door, and this is where the signal comes from on the inside of the door. They both run toward this contraption. The one from inside runs down there, and the one from outside runs across there. This contraption here extends any pulse to be a longer pulse, and it's 12 ticks is the unit of measurement. And the reason I need that is because this signal is always 15 ticks, but this piston is sometimes retracted and doesn't let the signal go through. I'll explain more on that a little later. But if the piston extends when there's only 1 tick left of this signal, it'll only send a 1 tick signal, which breaks things down the line. So even if this only has a 1 tick signal, this contraption extends it to 12 ticks. And the minimum for this to work is only 8, so it's perfect. The 8 tick or the 12 tick signal goes into here and starts a delay, essentially. And this sends a signal here, which powers the door. So this is set to 8 seconds. This is tunable based on how many items I have in here, because these items transfer, and when they stop transferring, then the signal stops, and it takes 8 seconds for 20 items to transfer. So this keeps the door open for 8 seconds. We need another protection, so that's just kind of a convenience thing to make sure the door stays open long enough for me to get through. But now we need a protection for additional signals to be ignored while the door is closing, because that's really when it would break, is if it's closing and you try to power it again. This is an observer. It detects when this circuit starts and sends a pulse, which starts this timer. This timer sends a signal to these pistons, and halfway through a 12-second timer, these retract, which means that for the last 6 seconds while the door is closing, no additional signals can get through to mess up the door, essentially. It's kind of complicated, but signal goes in, gets longer, door opens for 8 seconds, and this, in addition to these pistons, prevents any additional signals. It's a cooldown, essentially. This is the time the door stays open, and this is the cooldown timer to make sure that the door doesn't break. I have this button here that mimics a signal coming in from a pressure plate upstairs, so you can see how it works. So, one more time. This sends the signal to the door. After a minute of the door being open, these retract, and then the door turns off. And then once the door is closed, these go back into place. And with all these protections, I can walk across the pressure plate as many times as I want to. And the door is smart enough to ignore signals that would break it. And I just had all this open to kind of show, but in its regular form, the door only looks like this. Works from both sides. You can step on the pressure plate when it's open and it won't mess anything up. You can walk across this pressure plate multiple times, walk through and hit these other pressure plates and it won't do anything. It is a completely smart door that cannot break.